Last night, our 11 Investigates team brought you the story of the 2004 murder of John Reeby inside of his Talmadge Road home.
Tonight, the hunt is on for his killer, and it doesn't take long for police to zero in on their main suspect. Lead investigator Brian Duggar continues his report tonight.
John Reeby was gunned down around 3:15 p.m. on December 15, 2004, inside his Talmadge Road home.
Saw him on the ground and I called 911.
His daughter Jamie was on the phone with dispatchers by 3:22, and the hunt for the killer was underway.
I swear the police were there within a minute. The first officer showed up within a minute and, took over whatever was happening. And
Footprints, cigarettes, shell casings, and Reeby's body were all part of the early investigation. 11 Investigates has reviewed more than 1,000 pages of police, BCI, and court documents, along with audio and videotapes. We've also interviewed more than a dozen people associated with this case, and all of those people told us the same thing. There were a series of phone calls between 2:57 and 3:13 p.m. that are the key to this case. That's when John Reeby was trying to get his check from A1 Heating. But there's somebody else in the house at that point, and they also wanted that money, badly enough that they're willing to kill him over it. But there were two other calls that caused investigators to quickly identify a suspect. Calls from the cell phone of Reeby's helper, Eric Babos, who was trying to get $150 for a job he and Reeby did for A1 Heating. The first call was to the dead man's home, 30 minutes after the 911 call.
he said, I need my money, I want my money. Your dad needs to give me my money. And I was like, my dad's sick and he can't come to the phone. That's all I said. I never said anything else.
Was he angry on the phone?
Yeah, he's like, I want my money, I need my money. Your dad I'm like, well, you're yelling at a 13-year-old. Well, I don't have money.
Eric tells us a different story.
When I called, she said, something bad happened to my dad, don't call back. That's exactly what she said. I was like, wow, that's weird. So I was like, well, so I hung up, I called back. And nobody answered. And I was like, oh, so now I'm thinking they're just playing games. Like I know they do on the phone. That's exactly what my first thought was. So I was like, well, let me call A1 just to see what's going on and see if John picked up the check or not.
10 minutes later, records show Babos called A1 Heating from his cell phone. The owner of A1 told police that Eric was the same man who called from Reeby's home phone about an hour earlier.
John Reeby's own 12 and 13-year-old daughters found their father dead in his house. They had just got
Later that night, Babos' dad hears of the murder on the news.
I called Eric. I said, John got killed or shot, or I don't remember what exact words, but I let him know.
Eric Babos tells us that he then remembered an incident at Reeby's home 5 days earlier when Eric was confronted by Reeby's drug dealer at a party, a man by the name of JR.
I was sort of arguing with this guy when he came in the door anyways. I just didn't like him. So me and him had a few words, and John said, Eric, shut up. Shut your mouth, And that's how that went. I just didn't like guy right from the beginning.
Why didn't you like him?
I don't know. I just didn't like him.
Eric's buddy, John Claywitter, says the man pulled a gun.
My first thought was the week before, the guy with the gun. That's my first thought. And I was like, wow, I wonder if he's coming after me. That's exactly what I thought.
The men go to the police 8 hours after the murder to report the party incident. Babos repeats the story to police, and Claywitter discusses it in his police interview.
I was telling you what I saw. I saw a guy pull a gun up. He was big, probably 6'2". I bet he went at least 260. And John called him JR.
Although JR calls or was called by Reeby 5 times on the day of the murder, police zero in on Babos, who made that call to Jamie Reeby earlier in the day, asking for his money. A detective was standing beside the young girl.
32.
Hours after his interview, police show up at the home of Eric's brother.
The police knocked on my door on Cedar Bend, where we lived, and asked me to see my gun. And I thought it was odd, but I don't have nothing to hide, so I went in and got it out of, I got it out of my drawer, and they looked at it and smelled it, and okay, yeah. And I said, well, when they were leaving, I said, what's this pertaining to? And they said something along the line that your brother was involved in an incident.
On December 16th, when A1 employees tell police of conversations with John's helper moments before his death, Eric is identified as the main suspect and interviewed again.
I wasn't at his house. I wasn't there.
More than 2 weeks after the murder, Babos's clothing is tested. The left sleeve reveals gunshot residue. He tells police he has never shot a gun.
Babos.
On December 29th, he's arrested.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Eric Babos, guilty of murder.
On August 5th, he is convicted. Did you kill John Reeby?
I did not kill John Reeby. Had nothing to do with his murder.
Were you with anybody inside the house that day that killed John Reeby?
I was not inside his house that day at all.
Tomorrow night, Babos's family and legal team fight for his freedom. 20 years later, they still struggle with a conviction.
I believe Eric Babos is innocent, and I think about him all the time. It's sad to say, probably the biggest failure of my criminal practice.
Why do so many people believe Eric Babos may be innocent? Tomorrow night, we begin to reveal some of the evidence that was never heard and has come to light. There is so much more to this investigation. For more in-depth coverage, go to WTOL.com and join us tomorrow night for part 3.